it away, dude.
So I mean that's like the same thing with bodybuilding though, because if you go pro in bodybuilding, that you just get a little card. That's it.
I don't even know if Abby got a
they
card.
Don't even laminate it.
She didn't even get a card.
Yeah. They just get a little card. I think you have to write your own name on it.
Dude, we can write it for you.
They can't afford the ink.
You might get a cool little trophy, but like, did she get a trophy?
Oh my God.
Like a
No,
medal?
she got a medal, the same as everybody else.
Huh.
We
same
gave out
medal.
a sword at our
Yeah,
meet.
a sword is sick.
I would
Yeah.
way rather win a sword than a
Some
medal.
bodybuilding shows do swords.
Yeah, I
but,
was
like,
about
Yeah.
to say. I've seen
yeah,
that.
yeah.
This was a
And,
custom
dude,
one,
that's not
too.
even like pro shows sometimes though. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, I feel like for powerlifting they should do something. I mean, if for any pro show, I feel like there should be some kind of like prize pool, or they're making a ton of money on those seats.
Yeah.
They have
So-
to be. Yeah.
Yeah, the entry fee alone. I mean, that's
They should
crazy.
be winning something. You can't give a pro title. I was just saying earlier, like you can't give somebody a pro title and then at the same time not give them the perks.
Yeah, some
Because
kind of
essentially
status
they're
upgrade.
still an
Yeah,
amateur
right?
athlete at that.
That's
Yeah.
what I was saying. I think
Yeah.
by definition, when something is professional, there's money involved. Like,
Yeah.
Let's do a quick voice ID intro for everybody so that the audio audience can know who they're listening to.
Oh, I'll kick it off. Hey guys, I'm John Nealon. I train at Barbell Brigade with Nads, and I get the pleasure of hanging out with these fine gentlemen. I work in footwear. I'm the what we call product line manager for collaboration product as well as our lifestyle product. Okay, dude. Come on, man.
You already know. Everybody, I'm JP Gallardo. I run JPG Coaching. I'm on social media. I make videos, fitness creator. So it's kind of my thing. Just like to help people.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Evan Holmes, and I'm a social media content creator within the niche of fitness. I'm also an online coach, primarily lifestyle clients. Starting to dabble into the area of competitive or competitors. But I would say very similar kind of synopsis as JP here.
There's a lot of testosterone on these microphones. A lot of deep ass voices.
Yeah.
Did Evan get his gel on the mic?
Yeah, I'm all kinds of bricked up over here. The beauty of powerlifting, like I said, not to get corny in the beginning, is that like I met all these guys purely because I deadlift. Like that's it, right? Like I've deadlifted for 10 years. I put it on the internet. I messaged JP 2 years ago or something like, yo, good content, what's up? Or something. He's like, oh, yo, I've seen your content over the years. And then we became friends. Yeah. Met John through Bar Brigade, which is obviously a longer history, but I've done seminars there. Been homies with Nad since he was not an adult. Not in a weird way. he was 18 or something. And then Barquan, et cetera. And then Evan's rolling with the crew. I've seen his content over the years. And then I didn't even know he was here. Then we all roll out. We all just fuck around. And you find like-minded individuals purely based on lifting. But like we've talked lifting a little bit, but none of us really even talk lifting.
Not really. We've
Yeah.
just been shooting it.
As soon as I meet you and all you talk is lifting, you're probably not like in the crew, honestly. Because like, yeah, bitch, I know you put curls on the internet. Like,
Yeah.
let's not talk about curls right now.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because that is the common denominator between like a lot of the people, like the fitness expos, like we were talking about the other day. But it's not something I want to hear about all the time, just because it's almost like we have other interests and hobbies.
Imagine.
So, yeah,
Could you imagine?
No.
I
No, some people can, and that's the thing. I've talked to a lot of people at the expo, or even just like multiple times, like over these events, and that's all they ever want to talk about. Like I've had buddies in college like that who are just like amateur powerlifters and stuff, and that's just like the first thing they bring up every time you see them. Like, oh, I shit my numbers at the gym, man. Like it's crazy, dude. Like 1% increase, dude. Awesome. Yeah, I'm like, nice, man. It's like I talked to you about this earlier. So.
It was funny because we were talking earlier, kind of about like our group as a whole doesn't necessarily always talk about lifting, and I think that's what makes us like very nice as a group is because you and I will talk about fashion for like hours, and I'm like JP's like certified don't wear that, JP.
I consult with John. If I don't know what a brand is, I'll send it to John because chances are he knows what brand that is.
I'm like, don't wear that. They're
Yeah,
bad
yeah, yeah.
people.
Yeah, because I bought stuff and then it just ended up being trash. Like a week later, like starts ripping apart at the seams. Even if it looks cool, fast fashion is fast fashion. right?
Exactly.
It could have a higher price point, but it's still fast fashion.
No Balenciaga. No.
No, I'm a Hulk boy. Oh wait.
Is he wearing balance? I'm dead.
I have them with me in my back. Let me do a quick little, edit and post.
It's mostly
Edit and
audio.
post.
It's
It's mostly
Yeah.
audio. You're all right.
All right, cool.
nice.
No, but I think that's how we all kind of became homies. The three of us, a lot of it's based on humor. That's how I knew Evan fit in. We just started joking about whatever's happening in life, like in the moment, rather than even clothes. But then the three of us, obviously, all like sneakers and clothes, and that was easy. Sports, cars, video games, etc.
Just a bunch of bros. Being
Dude,
bros.
it really is.
Yeah.
It, like, and that's
Very
so
bro
like
hobbies.
how like
Yeah.
low of a standard is that to get in our friend group, but it's like so true. Because
Yeah.
I've met so many people in the industry, and now you two are starting to hit the circuits and meet all these people. You're newer to the circuit in this world, at least, and you start meeting people, and you're just like, dude, like, how many duds are fucking walking around? Like, you got nothing but bicep curls, nothing.
Yeah, and like I don't want to again. I
No,
don't want
rip
to be
them, bro.
negative.
Go.
I don't
No,
want to
hit
be
him.
negative,
Hit him, bro. Hit him,
negative,
bro.
but like
It's a negative positive because it's building us up. You know?
Okay,
I believe,
all right,
I
so
believe in bullying.
So we just I was gonna say so we're just chopping people down so that we look better. All right, cool. I got that. JP and I have been friends for like via social media for what probably
Almost a couple years.
Yeah, I was gonna say like almost 2.
On
I
and
would
off,
say
like, just talking at least.
Yeah, and this is actually the first trip where we've met in person.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that I think JP and I like really kind of hit it off is because there are so many people who, especially in the fitness industry, but probably everywhere, you very quickly realize you're like, you fucking suck. Like, I don't have anything in common with you, or you're just a try-hard boner. Like, I just am not interested in pursuing this relationship any further. And then when you like finally do, like start meeting or getting to know somebody who is like a substance individual and, has more to bring to a conversation than just clout chasing and shit like that. You really are like, okay,
Are you two in love?
I mean, like we were
love
gonna
is, like,
say
a
that till the
strong
end of the
word, but,
podcast.
like, it's
but-
not like
oh
no. I mean, I don't know, man.
yeah, there it is.
What's going on over there?
It's just a lot of egos in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fit all those in one room sometimes.
And they're very fragile.
Yeah,
They're
and
very
that room
fragile
being
egos.
like social media, like Instagram, TikTok, all of that. And it's crazy because it's never that deep. It's like there is room, but they see it as this small little bubble that we all fit in, and they're all just fighting for that middle spot,
Yeah.
But it's just we can all exist within the same spot, and there's no true like middle. Like you don't always have to be the center of attention or like the best.
Well,
Yeah,
it's even
right.
beyond that, bro. Not to get sad now rather than toxic. Like that portion of their life is so tied to their identity, and that portion of their life is going to be gone in a blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be relevant on the internet forever. Like if your identity's so tied to your biceps, you're not going to have big biceps forever. If your identity's so tied to your follower account and how many people are commenting and liking your shit, you're not going to be happy forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the same. It's like the same dopamine hit as doing drugs. And so you get so addicted to this stuff. And that's the first thing where JP got the check on the homies. Barquan and Omar Esau for like two of my best friends, and we always like read the world that way because we see the world similarly. And so I met you with Bart at the same time, and trust me, we were fucking judging the shit out of you. And we're like, all right,
As you should.
As is
Yeah,
natural.
yeah. No, of course.
I mean, you really have to like gauge people when you
Bro,
first meet
like,
them,
yeah,
'cause
is this homie like what circle is he going to be in? Is he going to be like
Yeah.
out? Is he going to be like kind of business relationship? Is he going to be like medium circle, or could he work his way into like the homies?
I mean, there's people you collab with, there's people you kick it with.
100%.
Yeah.
And even that for me, over the years, like I just been doing a little bit longer than y'all. Like I won't even collab with people that aren't even like outer circle. Like if I hate you, like I'm not gonna fake it
Exactly.
on camera to waste my time. Like my life's precious, man. My time's precious. I think I matter more than the likes that I can get from this dude who's bigger than me because he sucks. And JP got the pass, and Evan already
Point
got the
the
pass
camera
in one
at Nadeem.
day. No, I just was angled that my shoulders are angled that way. And it just goes that way. And you guys will slowly start to see it. You already see like if you're so fragile is a really good word. They're so fragile that like they got to take the best picture and they got to take the best this and they got to look the best way. And I'm not going to do, oh, you want to do legs today? My legs are weak. I'm not going to train legs with Evan. Like I'm only going to do chest because that's how I beat Evan. Like
Yeah.
A lot of
what?
people seriously think like that.
No,
And that's why,
that's how they plan their
Yeah.
content. We're like, I showed up with y'all and you're, and I sandbagged for sure. But you guys are like doing legs. I was like, yeah, I'll do fucking.
Yeah,
legs.
they're not at their absolute best.
No,
They
and
think
I-
they're about to get mogged, then they're
Bro,
not even showing up.
I was doing two legs, what JP was doing with one leg on the leg press. I was like, yeah, put it on the internet.
Well, the thing is, like, everybody knows this dude is like, he's squatting like 700 pounds over there. So.
Mike's lying, man.
Yeah.
He's like,
You can
"Oh,
sandbag
no."
list, but then you just go on your IG and it's like, oh, he's ripping like 600 for 15 reps, whatever.
I think it's
I'm
really
standing for you.
I think it's really interesting kind of this identity that surrounds people like in their sport. Because when I ran track and field, I felt like I lived it and breathed it, and it was almost as I didn't have anything outside of that, and everything that I did, I always considered how that would affect my running career for the day.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it just became something where it became a bad obsession. It became something where like I wouldn't spend time with my friends because I wanted to be so good. And it's interesting because it's like, yes, I was in a place where I was good, but also at the same time, it was like mentally, I like wasn't in a good place because I was so hyper focused on being the
really
best.
Young, yeah.
I did, yeah. I ran so much from a young age. Like
And I feel like that's part of it. So you had the chance to mature, right? So you got to that really like anal stage of your life where you're like, this is it. And then you're like, why are you so dirty, dude? But no, you got the chance to, like grow up and be like, this isn't all there is, right?
For sure.
Bring her in, we can talk.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was running, I think 7th grade, I ran like a 5:09 mile. And then
That's so stupid.
I could
And then
run
in
a
eighth
grade
grade
too.
I ran 5:50.
Yeah.
Flip it like a 905.
Yeah.
And then when I was in 8th grade, I ran like just under 4:40. So it was like I was running times, not phenomenal because now the training has just become so much better. You have high schoolers that are consistently running 4, sub
That's a lot of
4.
sports, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, I got to high school and I realized like, oh, I can go to college for this. And then it just started to, started to have these thoughts was like, well, I need to get serious. And then I didn't realize as I got older, I was like, damn, that was like my whole identity. And I feel like I see that in a lot of bodybuilders, powerlifters,
Yeah, I was going to say, because I do think there's absolutely value in dedicating a lot of yourself to something, like being passionate about something and chasing lofty goals. I really think a lot of people in this day and age in society actually lack that, which is why I think there's, higher occurrences of certain mental health issues and stuff like that. But I also think that you have to make sure you're doing something for the right reason. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like lifting came around very young for me. And it was never originally when I first started lifting, it was an explicit goal thing, an extrinsic goal thing where I was like, I want girls to think I'm more attractive and, I want to be better
bro?
at
You
sports.
can't beat a 10.
6'2", conventionally attractive.
I'm gonna break the
facial
scale.
hair,
11 out of
muscular.
10.
I want girls to think I'm attractive.
I was a fucking
Canadian.
I was a
A. That's the only bad thing, honestly.
we had to balance it out. I was a fucking geek until like puberty hit me like a truck. I was lucky in that sense. And then I just like kind of
Girls didn't like you when you were
prioritized
5. That's your sad story.
I couldn't get 20-year-olds when I was 13.
I couldn't.
But then I turned 14 and I could
get.
get 20-year-olds.
Yeah, it was tough. From 13 to 14, it was tough. I really struggled. But no, I just like that. Those were my initial goals with lifting, and then it was like very, very quickly I realized like the extrinsic goal, like the destination, mattered like much less, and I really fell in love with the journey aspect. Like it sounds very cliche, but it was like I enjoyed the practice rather than the game or the championship, however you want to kind of.
Oh no, I'm the same way. That's why I don't compete in powerlifting. Is basketball? I hated practice and I love playing.
Yeah.
I like the game. I like doing stuff. Powerlifting, I hate competing, but I like the training. I like the days in and days out.
And that's the thing people say to me about bodybuilding. They're like, man, you think you should compete in bodybuilding or powerlifting? I think it'd be a great experience. But like for me, it's not about that kind of thing. And if I decided to compete, I think it would make it about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I just love the practice. Like I love the day in and day out kind of thing. And that's why I know for me, like it is a healthy passion. Whereas if I'm doing all these things, sacrificing all these things for like, one day of the year kind of thing, then perhaps it's something that maybe you should reassess. You know what I mean?
Back to like the friend group stuff, kind of on that same note, is like a lot of the people that I end up surrounding myself with are people that I know with just like lift to lift, and they don't lift for a camera, where it has changed so much where people have gotten so monetarily successful in the game that they decide to lift because they see with someone like JP, like, oh, well, JP talks about lifting and he has so many followers and he looks like he's successful. So like I've gone to the gym. All right, I'll just start filming my gym. Where again, like an old head talk here, but me, Bar and Omar, like we're in the fitness industry when YouTube it didn't exist.
Yeah, for years before that.
Literally,
Yeah.
it didn't exist. And then we're like, oh, well, I have this skill or this part of my life. Let me share this with the world. Now I want to jump to you, and you don't have to dig too deep because I know you have a real job, might get in trouble. But more like on the clothing, designing, fashion thing, that world seems different to me, although there's probably egos because you're friends and know people at the highest levels of those crafts. But it's interesting to me because they're always behind the scenes. And you as well, and you don't have to go too much, but you design and work on these products that billions of people wear, use, love, money's going crazy, but you're just behind a screen designing and working. Same with most designers, right?
That sounds pretty nice, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
cooler
yeah.
to me, honestly, than the bullshit we do. But and in my sense, I see my YouTube in that way. Although it is my face that ends up on the screen, I just feel like I'm behind the scenes, and then I release that, and it's just released.
Yeah.
Rather than like,
that's interesting.
it's almost like a different human to me. Like, yeah, it's me and I'm being authentic or whatever.
You
but
don't
like,
think about it later. It's not attached.
I think of it as like a product. I don't think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I think of it as like a product. Like we made this podcast and now we ship this podcast.
Yeah.
We made this and now this is for you to share. You made this sneaker. Now it's for you to enjoy. What are the egos like in that world? Or like, because
And please name names.
I can see the wheels like
Yeah.
turning.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. Do you want me to? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. You know what's interesting? I think there's a lot of parallels between like what I experience just from what you guys talk about in powerlifting, bodybuilding. It's the exact same.
yeah,
It's literally the exact same. You have phenomenal people. Like there's, for example, the team at Bodega, shout out Ryan and Drew and Ricky and a lot of the people there. Great people, genuine people that want to create beautiful product and also at the same time will give you the time of day, talk to you. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people, you know, I've been in situations, I'm not going to name names, but I was at this event and I met this guy that I was like, oh, this guy seems super cool. Like I've always admired his work. He came up to me and was like, hey man, where's the bathroom at? And I was like, damn, I've met you like 5 times, dog. This isn't like,
you've spoken at length.
yeah, I've not kind of at length, like 1 or 2 times at length. And like, dude doesn't even remember me.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
At least
And
give me
it's-
a
and
good
it's-
to see ya.
And it's not even necessarily that like I care, but like he's famous. Like that's fine. But also at the same time, it's like, you're also famous within the community.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I will
like
say, though,
It's just human decency. I
yeah,
guess.
exactly.
Give me a
Exactly.
good to see you, man. Yeah, I'm not good with names. I forget a lot of names, but I like even last night. One of the guys at your all's table, he was a member of Barber Brigade, and I just say, hey, man, you look real familiar. And he's like, oh, I used to train at Barber Brigade. I was like, I know I see you, bro. What's up? Like, I don't remember his
Yeah,
name.
even if you don't remember, you
bro,
can
I
just
just
be
I was
like,
like,
But
bro,
you
I can't-
obviously made the effort to,
yeah, rather than like,
Even
yo,
if you get it wrong,
who's
you
this
know,
bitch
like-
next to
Exactly.
JPG coaching? You know,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah, no, it's difficult because you're like, you can just be a good human being. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with having a following and reaching this level within the fashion industry and being like, oh, well, I'm cool and I have X amount of followers. Like, I'm just not even going to give people the time of day, even within the creator community.
Yeah, that's what I thought the creator
gets
might be
people's
different.
heads.
Yeah.
The issue, I guess, with the parallels of our industries is that it is based on looks.
I
Even
was just
powerlifting.
about to say that.
So that's why I rip our world, because I'm like, all right, so we have looks, it's already shallow, and now we have internet, already shallow,
Yeah.
social media and money, all
All
shallow.
compounds.
All the early fruits shallow, and I guess from fashion it is in a sense where if you have a certain perspective, it's all how you look. But if you go to a deeper perspective, probably your buddies at Bodega or whatever, you do see it as art and creation. And that's, I guess, the difference of how I see YouTube and podcasts. I see it as creation, not that I'm working masterpieces of art, but I do see it as creation and then I'm shipping it, rather than these other folks probably see it as like, no, this is my body, this is me, I'm sharing me with the world and my looks, and I'm gifting my looks to the world, you know, like
God,
where
that's
I'm sure
ridiculous.
fashion's kind of somewhere there where I'm creating a product that has use and utility, and I think it's beautiful and well thought out and attention to detail, rather than like, oh, I make people or I wear shit to look cool.
Exactly.
Dude, I never really thought about it like that, like a product versus.
smart,
you know,
dude.
like-
I'm
no,
smart.
No, 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 no. I just
Humble,
wanna
too.
say just because, like,
Humble,
whenever
too.
I put out my videos, I'm like, if a video doesn't do well, I'm not like, oh, I didn't do well. I'm like, that piece of information that I thought would be helpful for so many people, like, didn't do as well as I thought.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't take it personally. I'm just like, man, I thought that like, that would do better. You know.
You're
So-
a good example too. Let's hit people with this because you are an overnight success. When's the first time you put a video out?
Let me just say that kind of hurts a little bit because I was on Instagram for like 2-3 years.
That's why I
before
just
that.
asked it, idiot. I
I
know.
was on, okay. Look.
I didn't dagger you. I
let me
just
say,
threw you an
overnight
alley-oop.
success. I built it up from like
I just threw you an alley-oop, you
Hold on.
dummy.
Nah, you're a one-hit wonder.
I just threw you an alley-oop.
No. All right.
When was the first
Hold
vid-
on. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, when your first content you started creating?
April of a year. I think it was maybe 2021.
That's TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
No,
But-
first content you created.
Dude, that was forever ago.
That's why I threw you the alley-oop, idiot.
Yeah, I don't even remember anymore. But there was a period of time for I think like maybe around 3 years on Instagram where I was building up an online coaching business from essentially nothing. I mean, I had no friends within the industry. I had no idea how to build that business. So part of what I did every day was I did 2 to 3 posts, usually 3 posts on Instagram every single day. 1 or 2 of them had to be client related posts, and then one of them had to be some sort of educational post or at least like a workout. So that was like kind of my formula for just building, my own little client base within my like realm of 2,000 followers on Instagram. And I did very well doing that. I was making a living, but I wasn't, nobody knew me when I was walking outside or at an expo or anything like that. I mean, I was at the Arnold like a few years ago, and it's surreal because I was one of the dudes like in line waiting to get like signatures and pictures and stuff like that. And then I was like there this weekend doing that.
Yeah, but you've been
So, it's
chugging
like-
2016, 2017, 2018, making
Yeah.
trying to make content.
Yeah, with it, nobody was watching.
I got a question for you. So,
Yeah.
with respect to that kind of thing, so you've been making content for several years now, but how long have you been training for? And I'm going to segue this because I wanted to say something
Yeah.
about this earlier.
Since I was 14, I'm 27 now. I just turned 27 last September.
Damn, you
Damn,
old.
old shit.
Yeah. I started tracking macros at 14. And
That ain't healthy.
I was going to say that.
No, so I got to
wild.
that point John got to. I was obsessive.
Yeah.
I literally missed people's birthdays just to get a lift in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And
Been there too.
I
I'll
found
never
that
forgive you
point
for
where
that.
I was like,
Yeah, that one
I'm
hurt,
sorry,
dude.
man. I'm sorry.
That hurt.
Yeah.
We were
Bro, it
going
was
roller
arm day.
skating.
It was arm day.
But yeah, I mean, it just got to an obsessive point. And I realized it just wasn't healthy, So I found that balance later on. And I realized I could make great progress and still, go to people's birthdays. So
Yeah.
That's the core.
Dude, that's not
crazy,
loud.
crazy thought, right?
That's-
You can
you
have other
can't do
interests and
that.
still make great progress.
That's like the core concept of flexible dieting, right? It's not eating Pop-Tarts all day. It's about like, I can wiggle shit around
Yeah.
and be a human.
No, I quickly will say that I've been there before too. I was very obsessive because I was so driven at some point. I mean, I had like my past relationship literally for most part I would say ended because of that, because I just was not willing to falter on that. But the reason I ask you that is because, and you were talking a little bit earlier about the whole like drive for people to want to be influencers now. I think like, especially in the context of fitness, it's going backwards in the sense people are like, I want to be an influencer, and then they kind of like work backward from there, like how can I achieve that? Whereas like for me and like JP, like I've been training for 10 years.
And me and John, why are they doing that? And Jim McD,
dude, look at people
Jim
like the
McD
Liver King.
deadlifted 600 before you were born.
It's crazy. I mean,
Not before
95?
When did you pull 6?
When did I pull 6? Probably 2011. Yeah, 2011.
95?
It was for the statement, bro. If I said like real math, it doesn't make an impact.
I don't know, 600
That's
is so
how you tell a
impressive.
story.
Like,
Thank you, Evan.
That is
Yeah, 6'11", and I spent 6 months rehabbing my hamstring before that.
Ooh, wow.
so
Yeah,
basically, like, could have been 700. Let's be honest.
Maybe 9. Yeah.
Well, let's just add 50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Round it up,
No, but that's exactly what
Yeah, I
I
was
was
just
talking
going to
about.
say, like,
100%.
ironically, I've had this discussion with several people recently, and they're just everybody wants to be an influencer now, even if they don't even have a thing that they're like passionate about
Or
And I'm
something to share. Like, what are you
that's what I was
telling me?
gonna
What are you
say.
teaching
It's like
me?
you have to. I mean, this sounds so cliche, but you have to provide value, and you got to. I honestly think like you should probably be exceptional in some way, and like if you're into fitness, for example, like obviously the TikTok fitness wave is taking over right now, and it's all these kids who are, which I love like kids getting into fitness. Like I think that's great. I love everyone getting into fitness. I think that's great. Even if it is for the wrong reasons, I just think it's good to, fitness is good. It's healthy generally and that kind of thing.
Yeah, promote
and I would,
lifestyle.
I'd rather people be doing that than nothing. You know what I mean? But people are like, oh, I've been working out for 6 months, and I'm going to be
always
an
been a
influencer.
thing, though,
and
it's
I'm going to
like-
pound out content.
Before it was, I'm going to be a personal trainer, right? And now it's just like they jump straight to like influencer. And in a sense, it's worse because
I think so.
Now they're influencing people that
With
they
what?
never would have, with information that not that might necessarily not be like, correct or true.
And even if it is, it's
we're
just
pushing out products.
it's
But
just
we've
re-
got you to fact check everybody. So
Yeah.
we got us.
yeah, at JP.
Yeah, I think we all kind of do that.
Yeah,
Our
well,
little
yeah, it's just
realm.
regurgitated info rather
Yeah.
than like explaining info. And I agree
Yeah.
with you. Like, you don't have to be fucking, Jesus Christ reincarnate, but like, you should have a skill or at least be working to a skill.
Yeah.
And you can share that journey.
Exactly.
Hey, I've only trained for 2 months, and my goal is to be the best personal trainer in the world. Follow along.
Yeah.
And just go as you go. Like,
And that's but as long
but
you have
don't
to
fake
take
it.
exactly you have to take that angle, like be authentic and be like, yeah, so I am only right here right
Yeah.
now, but I plan to be here, and if that interests you and the way that I relay content interests you, then follow along. But
You don't have to be JP.
Everybody is going from this like I haven't even paid my dues with lifting yet. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was like I was lifting for 8 years before I was like, I still love this shit a lot.
Yeah.
And I would like to help other people. So maybe I should actually give it a shot and start making some content.
I mean, how many people have you seen though that have been lifting just for a very minute amount of time, and then you see like their Instagram, Twitter, whatever, like I'm online coaching now. I'm an online coach. I'm just like, if anything, online coaching is even harder than training in person because you can't
Definitely.
direct them.
Well, and how
Definitely.
can you just go online without training in person?
Yeah, because you
Yeah,
can't. How do you
that's
word
insane,
that?
man.
To be able to relay it to the average person. Because in person you can at least move their bodies. Show them on the machine. But online you have to be able to type that out in a way that's easy to understand.
Well, and you see that the fix works, right?
Yeah.
I was training people from 6 a.m. to midnight for 4 years, and I could see, I've had this client for 3 years, and remember that? She couldn't even deadlift, and now she does this, this, and this. Online, how do you even know your cue or your coaching works? Like, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
sure, they can send a video, and you could, you know what I mean? But
Because full disclosure here, because I think transparency is important. I do online coaching, and I've never done like explicitly
All right,
in-person
fucking kill 'em.
coaching. Yeah, but I absolutely agree with that sentiment. So my roommate has countless hours of in-person training. He was the second in command, like assistant head strength and conditioning coach at my university. So he used to
you
run
played
like
football, huh?
I tried.
What the fuck's going on in Canadian football?
Bro,
Dude,
I'm not the person
not
to ask.
bad, man.
Do
Yeah,
not
they're all
let me
American.
be the representative.
yeah, I'm gonna bow out on that. I don't know anything about sports, so
I just know that you guys are like 3 teams. Like, high school, it's not normal to have a high school team. It's like rare-ish.
Yeah, we had 22 kids in our high school team. I played all
just played against
all
each other?
4
You play
ways.
quarterback and wide receiver.
Threw the ball to myself. But no, anyway, before we move on to that, 'cause
Yeah.
that's funny, honestly. He has lots of hours, like, even running full team sessions,
Which
you
is
know
a
what I mean,
whole
by
nother
himself.
talent, too.
Exactly. And he said to me, he's like, man, I really think you should do online coaching because I think you have a lot of knowledge and that kind of stuff. He just said, but understand that it's going to be a lot more difficult than you think, and you should do your best to get some in-person experience or that kind of thing before you go into that. And I think that's very, very true. Like, online basically just makes things that much more tedious. You know what I mean? Because
to
it's
build
like,
you up a little bit, though, I do know you've talked. I've heard I snooped hearing you talk to JP and talk to other people, and I know you've hired online coaches as well. Because even people now ask me like, "Oh, what's the best way to learn?" And I was like, "Oh, there's some like podcasts and articles and stuff you can read." But honestly, the best way is to get a coach.
Dude,
And
I
I know you
100%
played sports,
agree.
and I know you worked out in gyms with good coaches. But then you've also had good online coaches, and I assume just by being around you a couple of days, and I could literally hear you talking to JP and others, you probably asked them real questions.
Yeah,
you didn't
it's-
just say like, "Oh, okay, 3x3, I'll go to 3x3." Like, "Hey, man, why are we doing this?" Or "What do you think about that?" And that's how you actually learn to become a coach and learn to build a skill.
my
No. I was just gonna say it's a good way to filter coaches as well. If you ask them a question and they, it's just what I've always, No, they have
give
to
you a
have
bunch of
some
nebulous
kind
terms.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Some
not
kind
good.
of reasoning. Why am I doing this? If they can't answer that or they don't want to answer that, probably not the best fit as a coach.
Yeah, I've only had 2 coaches. So I hired my first online coach almost 3 years ago now, and then after working with him for about 2 years, I moved from kind of powerlifting focus to bodybuilding focus. Both of my coaches that I have had will say that I'm annoying as shit. Like, I just ask too many questions because I want to learn so much.
Yeah.
So I try to strike that line, but I am a firm believer that, like, if you're really passionate about learning and continuing to learn, there's always somebody who knows more than you, and you should always have a coach, because if nothing else, it's going to produce constructive discussion. Like, even if your coach doesn't know more than you per se, and you guys have like equal knowledge, just for
You can
argument's
take
sake,
an objective view.
exactly,
Yeah.
you can still get that objective perspective, and you can still talk shop and learn and that
Yeah.
kind of thing, come to more productive conclusions. And I know a lot of dudes who are content creators or who are around my age, and you know what I mean, they're starting to get into it and that kind of thing, and like they don't have a coach. And I'm like, I don't know how serious you can be about learning, or how delusional you can be, or that your ego's so big that you don't think you can learn more from somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it is easily the best investment if you're really serious about it.
I think
Finding a good coach is difficult,
yeah,
but that's another
but I
issue
think
altogether.
also at the same time, there's something to be said about always being a student, you know?
Exactly.
Always wanting to grow as a person, as an individual. It's not just about, you know, if there's any coach that's telling you like, oh, I'm not learning, I'm not pushing myself, that's a red flag.
Well, they probably don't say it.
Yeah.
By the way.
But if you actively see them, like,
No,
not
the
pushing
general concept's
themselves,
weird.
you know?
I've obviously coached, and so like I think the view of the world to me is that I'm a coach and like an expert. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I got a coach, and people are like, oh, dude, you sell like programs and like you coach people. Why'd you get a coach? I'm like, what? You're
No,
that's
the
the
general
that's,
public really
that's
doesn't
the big
understand,
view.
you know?
No, they have no. I was like, well, one, I don't want to like. I could write my own program, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
two, like, why can't I learn?
Exactly.
Like, why can't I?
But I do think like a big part of it also, like, again, even if you are on the same level, you know, knowledge wise about the objective view, again, like, because you can, like, the emotional aspect that comes with training, not hitting lifts, especially with powerlifting and stuff like that, it can really get to your head, and I feel like mess with whatever you want to program for the following weeks, right? So
Right. And if the
having someone
coach
just,
knows
you know,
me, which he did, it was Joe Stanek. Like, I just like gave him feedback that he probably took more serious. Hey, Joe, man, ran a bunch of volume in 2017, didn't go great. Let's look at the higher frequency stuff
it
or
helps
whatever.
a lot when the client, you know, has experience.
a
Yeah,
little bit of
absolutely.
fucking knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can be more acute with how you explain things. Like it's almost like last night when we were talking about like jargon.
Yeah.
Like with talking about like lifestyle and fashion and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing with weightlifting. It's like if you can convey a message more clearly, it's only going to help the level of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And communication is, again, another cliche term from me, or another cliche saying, but communication is so tough and it's so important. And especially in the context of, for example, online coaching.
Yeah, it's tough.
You can't do, you know, you don't have in person to be like, you know, yeah, move this here like this, and you have to like actually use, you know, you have to be very good at articulating yourself.
Yeah, cues are more important.
They have to be able to understand more clearly, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when I have an experienced client versus like a non-experienced client, it just cuts down the amount of verbiage that I have to use in a sentence. You know what I mean? Because I have to be able to relate complex topics in an easy to understand way. So it usually ends up being just a much longer explanation.
That's
because of
another
that.
expert cue for me too. And
Yeah.
some people
Distillation.
Some people are going to be
Yeah.
friends and they might get offended here, but like, bro, you using big words doesn't make you a good coach.
Yeah, we've been talking.
We've been
about
talking
that.
about that.
You disagree?
Well,
No, we completely
No,
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
Agree.
like if I'm talking to you, sure, you and I can throw around some anatomy, but just because you read an anatomy chart doesn't mean you're going to tell me how to build muscle or build strength.
Yeah.
Like 99% of people fucking won't have a clue what I'm talking about. And what's your
Exactly.
job
Yeah.
as a coach?
Exactly.
To communicate a plan to
Yeah.
get you where you want to
And
go.
that's something that in the context of what we were talking about, there's lots of people who make content, and it's basically just like an intelligence flex. They just are trying
nutrition,
Yeah.
anatomy,
They're
like
just
look,
like
Yeah.
they're going to use the most complex like academic jargon to sound smart and like flex their like lexicon. And
my friends with PhDs
I really hope I use
would
that word
agree.
properly.
Yeah, my friends with PhDs agree. Like that doesn't even matter. Like you're like,
Yeah.
I don't need to know the exact like molecular process of protein synthesis for me to get someone fucking jacked.
Exactly. And the Gen Pop, and even, well, honestly, more than just Gen Pop, like the vast majority, like you said, of clients and stuff like that, or just people who are trying to learn from people like us who make content, and they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't need to know what the infraspinatus is and does and whatever. They just need, like, they're like, bruh, just dumb it down so that I know what I'm to do, how to do it properly.
But what sucks then, to play semi devil's advocate, is the pop or the consumer, the listener, the viewer does think that person's smarter. Oh,
that's the thing.
big word. I had to Google
Gen
that.
Pop doesn't know, man.
No, I know, and I
but
hate
you
it
look
all.
at any real educator though that's trying to talk to Gen Pop, and they will never speak like that. They'll never speak like that because there's some people out there, and I'll even watch their videos, and I was like, man, I had to replay that because what are you even trying to say? It's confusing to me sometimes just listening to it, and I have a pretty good, at least I think so, understanding of
Vernacular.
Vernacular
Yeah.
and the things they're saying, but. It's such a confusing way of putting it out there just to make people think you're smart. So.
You guys trying to get weird?
I might be.
There's
Would love
hot
to.
off the fucking presses, Jim.
Nads with the
I know.
the
Hit me.
clutch news.
So there's a guy been going around for a while now on the internet. Not really in our space, but he's pretty well touted or well regarded. His name's Elon Musk.
Oh, initial reaction here, huh?
And so we got
one time.
some breaking Twitter news from Fox News, and a guy named Zuby Music, who has been, I think he's a rapper. Don't quote me, but he's gotten quite political over the last 3 years on his Twitter. I followed him for a little while. I don't follow him, but I've seen his shit. I would say right side leaning, and no one has to speak out of their terms here or what you're uncomfortable with. We can edit anything out because we might get a little hairy. But it does highly relate to our world, which we have heard over the last couple of years. And a similar lawsuit happened about 8 years ago with CrossFit, and it also happened within the last 4 years in powerlifting. But I believe powerlifting and CrossFit had both won those lawsuits, and this is the first time they had lost.
I feel like I know where this is going.
So Fox News reports that USA Powerlifting must let transgender athletes compete in women's division after losing discrimination case. And from there, which is, we can even keep it very neutral, right? That's just a report. That's just what happened. And Zuby says, progress, don't be a bigot. And I think he's saying that sarcastically. I might be wrong. Because then he throws...
Just knowing his content.
He throws these hands up in the sky, the little emotes.
Yeah.
But the response from that, I actually think, is disrespectful. And I'm pretty neutral on Elon. But his automatic tweet from that is laughy face. Now, I think all these, regardless of where you sit politically or spiritually or religiously, I don't really care because I think everyone has a seat at the table when conversation is at point. But we're talking about people's identities. We're talking about who they think they are or who they are. We're talking about sports that really matter to a lot of people. So I think any way you talk about these things should be respectful. And so for Elon, who knows nothing about powerlifting and probably nothing about fucking gender, the dude's a fucking 1010 coding guy.
Yeah. It's honestly just
So just to come in with a laughy face is weird to me to
touchy
start.
topic,
Insanely tough. And I've had the same thing too, and I'll start out to make you boys more comfortable since it is my podcast. I'll throw my fucking hat in the ring. I've said for a long time because WADA, I believe, which is the ruling government for the Olympics in terms of drug testing and most of the rules, I believe they said 2 years post-hormone therapy that you can compete, right? And that was a big story during the Olympics. I believe there was a New Zealand weightlifter who was born male, transgender woman, decided to compete and did make the Olympics. I believe she bombed out and didn't do it, but she made the Olympics. And I've always thought, and this is my opinion, and you guys can have your own and leave in the comments or find us and we can have a civil discussion because all these things get uncivil for whatever reason. I've always thought participation should be allowed. And don't bite my head off. I think participation should be allowed. I think competition should probably be based on what we were born physiologically. As athletes, athletics are based on physiology mostly. Sure, there's a mental component, et cetera, et cetera. But when we're talking gender, all these things do, and I agree, is like a spectrum and whatever. But when sports, what makes sports beautiful is there's a score. There's a winner or loser. There's no spectrum in sports.
Yeah.
Sports is win, lose. And physiologically, there's so many things that they don't look into a WADA. At one point, I did a YouTube video 6 years ago or so, and I dug into their exact data and their rules a little deeper. So don't quote me here because I probably forgot it. It was 6 years ago. But again, I think it's 2 years post hormone therapy, and they were mostly looking at testosterone, which, as we all know here as big jack men, that testosterone plays one small role. In terms of natural powerlifting, was the easiest example. If we look at natural powerlifting, you could have the sickest, best natural powerlifting physique and be on the lower end spectrum of natural testosterone. Testosterone, as long as, say I go through puberty and I have 300 mgs, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys might know a little bit more than me even on the test stuff. If I have 300 mgs, which is lower spectrum for natural testosterone, I could hypothetically have the biggest dopest beard and be the most jacked guy as long as my 300 is steady through my adulthood.
Is TRT allowed in USA powerlifting? Medically?
So I don't think so yet. I don't think in WADA, although it is in UFC who's based on WADA. That's why it gets all weird because WADA is the ruling board for the Olympics, and then other sports say they use WADA rules, but they'll do their own testing. I believe CrossFit.
Isn't UFC USADA?
So USADA is the United States of WADA.
Okay,
That's our
okay,
branch.
okay.
So that's based on the same rules, but I don't even know if they do the actual testing. They just sometimes go by those rules. So CrossFit, again, don't quote me on this. This is literally just live off Twitter. I wasn't prepped to talk about it, but I think CrossFit says they go by WADA rules, but they don't use WADA. They just go by those rules. So they're doing their own testing, right? And then UFC, I think might be similar, might be wrong.
So, well, I was just going to say, like, there's because those minor details make a big difference. I think that's why the whole USAPL or whatever left the IPF.
So that was the biggest reason they left the IPF, is that actually USAPL wanted to test more stringently than the IPF. And it does come down to business, where I don't think it is a morality thing. Don't quote me. But I'm pretty sure the IPF didn't want to change that rule because other nations couldn't afford the stringent testing.
I think USAPL was like, we'll test them no matter what, however we can, compared to being like, it has to only be done by USADA, which is extremely expensive, and then it was not going to be able to happen at every meet. So you're going to have people coming in that are on, knowing that this meet they're not going to test. They could somehow find out and win a championship and then fuck off. But right now, if you're competing in the USAPL and you're winning, you're getting tested.
And we're talking powerlifting, right? Which is on the beta bottom scale, like I talked about on the last podcast with Avi. They're not even getting fucking paid, and we're doing all these crazy rules. Because then we scale way up, right? We have something like cycling. And if you haven't watched the movie Icarus, I suggest you go watch the movie Icarus. And yeah, it's a documentary. It's not based in the Bible, but there's probably truths there. That you can pass any fucking test if you want. And Lance Armstrong was the most popular guy besides Tiger Woods on the planet and got by every test. Now,
when you have the best team behind you, it's
you can figure it out.
Yeah.
So leapfrog that from, again, testosterone hormones being one thing. What about the other genetic factors? You guys are familiar with the Q angle. So Q angle is a big thing. That's why, like, don't quote me, JP might know better, but it's like 50 to 80% more ACL tears happen in women than men. And that's because of Q angle, which basically means where your hips are in line to where your knees are. Women's hips are obviously wider than their knees, where men, not always, because there is, variance, but typically their knees are straight down from their hips, meaning we have just a broader base. And then that internal rotation of the knee on impact or cutting, you're going to rip less ACLs, right? So what about that when it comes to sports? If someone does this hormone therapy for 2 years and now they compete in this sport, what about tendons and ligaments that I assume, what about muscle fiber types? That might be something you might not know. But I assume males are born with different muscle fiber types just purely based on stats. Now, the argument, to play devil's advocate, then I'll let you guys speak. I want to just lay it all out there for your thoughts. The other devil's advocate, I guess you could say, is if you took like the genetic spectrum of born female, most elite athlete, whatever that means, crazy muscle fiber types, crazy this, that, right? And then the least female, genetically born with the best or the worst muscle fiber type, the worst tendons, the worst fast twitch, all this. And then you take the men, same thing. Yeah, there's probably overlap. Yeah. Right? The worst athletic male on the planet is probably least strong and less explosive than the strongest, right? Like you take the weakest dude on the planet that's ever been born genetically and you have him race Serena Williams, yeah, he's going to get smoked. But then if you want to go to those extremes of whipping those out, then why even have male-female sports? Throw them all together.
Well, that's the thing. I think you have to quantify how large that overlap is, which is obviously very difficult to do.
So hard.
Right. But I think what do you do? A bench press test? Yeah, we just can't do it.
I think it's generally accepted to say that the overlap is probably not that big relative to what is not overlap. And I apologize for any of the listeners who are not able to follow. No,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Illustration.
The median are far apart still.
That's what exactly. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And I'll just say, like, I think the goal of trying to include as many people as possible and giving as many people a place to compete or participate, however you want to kind of say, I love that. I tend to be very centric, which in today's society is probably soft. I was going to say I'm probably
deemed as like right.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I would consider myself to be centrist, but everyone else compared to the average right now, I would be seen as right, I think. But that being said, like I think everyone should have an opportunity to pursue their passion and what they love and compete and enjoy like all the great things that sport and competition brings to the table. But unfortunately, I think sometimes if you look at it even from like kind of an economics perspective, it's like you need to have the means to provide that place to compete. So it's like, for example, I don't know if this analogy really works, but you could have like, let's look at like intramural sports at a university, right? Or a college, you guys say in the States here. you'd have, men's intramural sports, or you'd have women's, or you could have a co-ed or whatever. But then, maybe somebody's like, well, I'm in a wheelchair and I want to play wheelchair basketball. If there aren't enough people who want to do that and there's no wheelchair basketball league, like, what do you do there? They're just, the reality is that you just don't have the means to allow that. And sure, maybe you could let them compete with people who are not in a wheelchair, but is that going to even be enjoyable for them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of where I bring the analogy to the transgender situation is, if somebody wants to go from a position of male to female, where stereotypically that probably means they're going to be relatively successful after, as you alluded to with the New Zealand weightlifter, is that really everybody, like, they might enjoy that because they're probably going to be, they may be pretty successful, but everybody else is going to be probably not going to enjoy it that much. And then if you're to go the other way, which I think we were briefly discussing because I saw this video recently of like a UFC type of fight where I think there was a woman who transitioned to be a male and didn't see a lot of success. And I just think like
you don't hear those stories a lot.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's kind of where like the data speaks for itself because there's is it Fallon Fox? Is the big MMA fighter that was born male and competed against women after transitioning and had some success, but then got knocked out. And then people say, "See, it's not unfair," but that's N=1. Like the data's not enough.
Yeah.
But I think for me, at least the stories. Again, I'm no expert. This is hot off the presses. But going the other way, you don't hear the story of them being on a professional level. Kind of builds the data for you.
Yeah.
It kind of builds the story.
And
like it probably isn't there competition.
That's kind of what I was going to say. If you took like a free market approach and we're just like, all right, have at her, let it ride, and let's see how it goes, then I feel like I just don't think it would be sustainable, and I think we probably run into more problems than not.
It would come to a sort of tipping point, essentially.
That's
right?
kind of what I'm saying.
So I think that sure, like if you want to allow it, let's let it happen, right? But at some point, you might see some sort of tipping where you're competing at such a high level already. Before all this was even happening, the margins for the people winning first, second, third are so small, right? So if someone already has even a minor advantage, then that could be a huge advantage, right? Because we're talking like 0.1 of a second if we're talking about track.
Avi won by 0.01 of a dot yesterday.
Exactly, right. So
Wow.
So we're talking minute margins here for people who are winning first, second, third. So if you have even a slight advantage, that's a huge advantage. So it just depends, like case by case, right? So it's
and
really
sport
hard
by
to say.
sport, right? That's the
Sport
big
by
argument
sport.
with like
Exactly,
UFC.
yeah.
Like, is it even
'Cause
safe?
Well, I think that
women
powerlifting-
excelling men in certain things, like being able to tolerate higher workloads,
Yep.
endurance training,
was
Upper
gonna
body
say that.
strength.
Yeah.
It's just like a data-driven.
I mean, you
fact.
put them in like
Yeah.
a 100-mile, like those ultra marathoners, right? I mean, women might excel at that.
Yeah.
More so than men in some cases.
I did that, and I broke out the data back in the day to kind of because again, like the muscle fiber types that we just can't check every person on the planet. But if you can look at sports and you look at the biggest male tested squat of all time and the biggest female tested squat of all time, and then you look at the ultra marathon times of male and female, the ultra marathon times are much closer in the male and female than the squat would is. And how do you quantify that? Obviously, because they're different.
But you can interpret it.
You can interpret it, and it looks
To a
pretty
certain
close.
degree.
Like the biggest squats, 550, whatever, and it's like a Amanda Allen or somebody, and then you're looking at Ray Williams, who almost squatted 1,100 pounds.
Yeah.
It's nearly double. Where I think there's ultra marathons and even marathons where women are keeping up, if not beating gentlemen.
But it's so hard to even say that
Born
because
gentlemen.
if we're looking at the best of the best for men and women, that doesn't necessarily like correlate to what the average, the median
For sure.
weight is. So
yeah,
even
the
for,
median
like,
might be a bigger gap.
Yeah, a much
in
bigger
both,
gap. Like
yeah.
especially like women and men, like when we're looking at like strength-based sports and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
super
Well, I
hard to say.
think for this case, it's kind of crazy because now I think it's good that we're talking about it because even for me, I was like, this might be a touchy subject to bring
It
up.
is. It is.
Yeah,
And
no,
so
it's-
we mean to offend nobody out there. We're not trained professionals. We may use wrong lingo.
Yeah.
We don't mean any offense, but I think Nads is important that it is talked about because without talking about it, we don't progress either way.
Well,
If everyone
especially
just hits
now
pause on
because,
it,
like, say Elon, who arguably is the most famous person on the planet,
know.
to just throw something out there, whether you agree with them or not,
Right.
it's important because what they're gonna say is just the obvious: men shouldn't compete in women's sports, right? But going from our perspective, that have a little bit more knowledge, now it's kind of like, okay, what are like the actual implications? Because this is our sport.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, arguably, we just care about protecting the women in the sport because it does not affect the men or the people competing in the
Doesn't
male
seem to
division.
be.
And and that goes kind of across the board in terms of what we just as society and biology say men are stronger in physicality or physical sports, and this is kind of like the final testing ground, which is just pure strength, right? So it's I think it's gonna take time to see, but what is like the stuff that they had talked about on how they would make it fair? Is it someone that can just transition? Because I doubt that there's going to be people that just jump and like, I'm going to wear a wig and try to compete. Yeah. Those are just assholes that would say that.
I think it's WADA, which is like hormone therapy for 2 years or so. But even like I said, I think they're not looking at the other factors. Like I'm almost guarantee, although I don't know the data, but I almost guarantee like ligaments, tendons on the median or on the average are just thicker and stronger in males than females.
And that's the thing, right? So
which plays a huge role.
Testosterone's not necessarily going to change that part,
right? Yeah, it's not going to degenerate.
Exactly, and that's what I was kind of saying. Like, so it'll change some things, you know what I mean? But there are other things that it doesn't affect that are going to be different biologically from male to female.
The muscle fiber type and upper body.
And that's why I was kind of alluding to, or I made the wheelchair basketball analogy, because it's like, let's give these people a place to compete, but it's going to be, you know, do we have the means yet? Because are there enough people to develop a new division, basically, right?
Right, and that's the other argument.
That would be
Should
ideal.
They do something else? I think the biggest thing is that these conversations need to happen. We need to talk about it respectfully. We need to respect everyone we can. We don't have answers. They don't have answers. But I'm not a huge fan of the smiley emote, because that just doesn't help.
It doesn't
anybody.
help anybody.
It doesn't progress the conversation. It doesn't progress sports. I'd whoop Elon's ass in any sport. And so we'll leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, Arnold 2023, shout out to the boys for hanging with us. Shout yourselves out, your coaching, your socials. Where can they find you, Evan?
You can find me at Evan, EVAN _ Holmes, HOLMES _. That is my Instagram username. That's kind of my main platform. I'm also on YouTube under the same username. Oh, actually, I think YouTube is Evan.Holmes.
But if they search it, they'll probably find it.
Yeah, I think so. Although I'm still very small on
We'll
YouTube,
get you there.
So. And then, TikTok is look up Evan Holmes. I think I'm probably going to be the top option there. And thank you very much for having me, man.
No,
really
thanks, buddy.
it.
Great to meet you this weekend. Hit them, JP.
Find me everywhere: CVS, Walmart, Kroger, JPG Coaching.
Damn, they can buy you in the pharmacy.
Anywhere. I'm a product. Thank you, Mike, for having me. I appreciate kicking it with the homies.
I know. Let's go grab some food and get out of here. We're getting kicked out to a Russian. Nads, hit them, buddy.
Bye, guys.
BarberBrigade.com, Nadine Hamidi. New shows every Wednesday, Friday. This is a Speaker Prime podcast. Shout out to my boy John. Hit him with it. Where can they find you? Instagram, whatever you're allowed to.
He doesn't want to be found.
I don't want to be found. Don't find me.
John Nealon, where you want to find him?
On the streets.
And we'll catch you every Wednesday, Friday. Appreciate you guys. We got to get out of here.